I found out my fiancé cheated on our wedding day with my twin sister. I should be wearing white right now. My hair should be perfectly curled, my hands trembling not from heartbreak but from excitement. I should be walking down that aisle toward the man I thought I'd spend forever with. But instead, I'm here, alone, sitting in the back seat of my maid of honor's car. Makeup ruined, dress wrinkled. Dignity? Somewhere on the floor of that hotel suite, tangled between my fiancé and my twin sister. Let me rewind. My name is Clara, and today was supposed to be my wedding day. The venue was perfect, a lush garden surrounded by glass walls, overlooking the hills. We had 200 guests, a string quartet, and vows written from the heart. I'd been planning this day since John proposed to me 3 years ago. John, the man who said I was his piece, who kissed my forehead every night and said he couldn't wait to see me walk down the aisle. The man who whispered to me just yesterday, tomorrow everything becomes real. Well, it did. Just not the way I expected. It all started this morning. I woke up nervous, giddy. My twin sister, Cynthia, my maid of honor, was already up, sipping coffee like it was any other day. She hugged me tight and told me I looked radiant. Said I was glowing. Liar. By noon, I was dressed. My veil pinned in place. Photographers fluttered around like butterflies. I kept asking where John was. My mom said he was on his way. The best man, his cousin, shrugged, probably just getting cold feet. You know how guys are. Then 1 p.m. passed. Then 1:30. Then 2 o'clock. The wedding was supposed to start at 1:15. At 2:15, his mother pulled me aside. Her eyes were glassy. He's not coming, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Clara. I don't even remember how I got to the hotel. All I know is Cynthia was missing too. Her phone? Off. No one had seen her for over an hour. I borrowed my cousin's car and drove, still in my dress like a madwoman, to the hotel John had booked for our honeymoon. I don't know what led me there. Instinct? Rage? A hunch? But I wish I hadn't gone. Because there they were. Room 807. Door cracked open. Laughter echoing out like a dagger to my heart. I pushed it open. John. Cynthia. Still tangled in the sheets. Her red bridesmaid dress halfway down her thigh. His lips on her neck. They didn't even flinch when they saw me. Clara, she said, like I was the one interrupting something sacred. I ran. I haven't stopped crying since. But the worst part? I don't think this was a mistake. Or a moment of weakness. I think they planned it. Because when I looked in her eyes, there was no shame. Just satisfaction. People say betrayal cuts deep, but they never tell you it burns too. I haven't slept since the wedding day or whatever that was. I just lie awake, eyes wide, trying to make sense of it all. Trying to convince myself this was some twisted one-night thing. A spur-of-the-moment mistake. But every time I replay Cynthia's face in my mind, I know the truth. She looked proud. Smug. Like she'd won. And suddenly, all the puzzle pieces that never quite fit before start clicking together. The way John always laughed at Cynthia's jokes, even the ones I didn't find funny. The time I caught them whispering in the kitchen during our engagement party, and she told me he was just helping her open a wine bottle. The accidental hotel booking mix-up when we traveled, and they ended up in the same room while I was left to sleep on the couch. The way Cynthia insisted on planning the bridal shower without me, then invited his ex by mistake. How did I not see it? I thought I was being paranoid, or insecure, or just sensitive. You know how people love to tell women to stop overthinking? I did. I stopped. And look where it got me. I opened my phone this morning and stared at the hundreds of unanswered messages. Most of them are people asking if I'm okay, if I need anything, if they should say something to him. I haven't responded to a single one, but one message stands out from my Aunt Grace. Clara, sweetheart. I've kept quiet for too long, but now I need to tell you something about Cynthia. I called her instantly. She hesitated before speaking, like every word might set off a bomb. Cynthia's always been different, she said carefully. Competitive. jealous. Even as a child, she didn't like sharing attention. Especially not with you. That stung. I always thought Cynthia and I had a complicated bond, but deep down, I believed she loved me. That she'd protect me from the world, not become the weapon that destroyed mine. She used to tell people you were adopted, and Grace continued. Said you weren't her real sister. Just her shadow. Her shadow. I think I stopped breathing. All these years, I thought the tension between us was just sister stuff. We wore the same clothes, finished each other's sentences, took turns being the pretty one. But I realize now I was never her twin. I was her rival. And the prize? Was my life. My fiancé. My happiness. My identity. She took all of it. But the thing is, I'm not sure why it mattered so much to her. Why she needed to ruin me to feel whole. Unless there's more to this story than I even realize. Because today, I pulled out an old photo album. There are no baby pictures of me and Cynthia together. No hospital photos. No first day home side-by-sides. Just Cynthia. Alone. Then suddenly, at about age 3, I appear. And now I can't help but wonder. What if this betrayal didn't start on my wedding day? What if it started the day I came into her life? I don't know how long I stared at that photo album. Minutes? Hours? All I know is, something shifted in me. A gnawing feeling deep in my gut that wouldn't let go. I tried to ignore it, tried to tell myself that maybe my parents just didn't take many pictures. Maybe the camera was broken. Maybe I was shy as a toddler. But once you feel the sting of betrayal, your whole life starts to look suspicious. I called my mom that night. She answered with a soft, shaky Clara, like she'd been waiting for the storm to hit. Why aren't there baby pictures of me? I asked. Before age 3. Why aren't there any pictures of me and Cynthia as babies together? Silence. Then a deep sigh. Sweetheart, I was hoping you'd never ask that question. And that's when everything began to unravel. She told me I wasn't born into the family. I was adopted quietly, without any paperwork that would ever make it public. A favor from a distant cousin who gave birth too young and too poor and left me with them. It was supposed to be a new start for everyone, she said. Cynthia knew. She found out when we were 10. Overheard a conversation between my parents and Aunt Grace. And, from that day forward, everything changed. She never told me. Never mentioned it. But she carried that knowledge like a loaded gun in her back pocket. No wonder she always treated me like I was borrowing her life. No wonder every compliment I received made her sulk. No wonder she needed to steal John from me. Because to her, I never belonged in the first place. I sat on the bathroom floor for what felt like forever, gripping the phone, trying not to shatter into pieces. Trying to decide which betrayal cut deeper, John's, or the lifetime of Cynthia's silent war. And then came the message. From a blocked number. A single photo. John and Cynthia. On a beach. Arms around each other. The timestamp? 1 year ago. 1 year ago, John had already proposed to me, which means this affair wasn't a last-minute fling. It wasn't a drunken mistake. It wasn't cold feet. It was love. Real. Ugly. Twisted love. And I was the placeholder. The puppet. The fool dressed in white, walking into a wedding that was never mine. And now I can't stop asking myself, if Cynthia wanted everything I had, what happens when she realizes she didn't actually want John at all? I didn't cry when I saw the beach photo. I laughed. A dry, bitter, soulless kind of laugh, the kind that sounds foreign coming out of your mouth. Because at some point, pain reaches a peak where tears just give up. They deserve each other. John and Cynthia. They deserve the lies, the guilt, the rot they built their love on. But then something happened. I posted a simple photo of myself on Instagram. Just a casual selfie, no caption, no filters. I haven't posted in weeks, but I figured I deserved to exist again. Not 5 minutes later, I got a notification. Cynthia viewed your story. Then, a text. You look good. Moving on already. I froze. I hadn't blocked her yet. I hadn't blocked either of them. Some part of me wanted them to see me, wanted them to know I survived. But this wasn't curiosity. It was a warning. I replied, just 2 words. You won. She read it instantly. No reply. Instead, 10 minutes later, another message came in, this time from an unknown number. You were always second best, Clara. Don't forget that. I didn't need to guess who sent it. She took John. She took the wedding. She took the future I built for years. But that wasn't enough. She wants my pain too. And in a twisted way, it makes sense. Because what happens when you spend your whole life trying to outshine someone? And then they walk away, refuse to compete, and still carry more dignity than you. You get scared. You get desperate. You keep watching. So now I know. Cynthia isn't done with me. And here's the part that sends chills down my spine. A friend from college DM'd me tonight. She said she saw John and Cynthia at a restaurant last weekend. Cynthia was wearing my necklace. The one my father gave me the year he passed. I never lost it. I never gave it to her. Which means she went through my things. She's still trying to be me. And for the first time since this all began, I'm not just heartbroken. I'm scared. Because if she's still watching me, still obsessed, how far is she willing to go? And what exactly does she want now? I used to believe the worst thing someone could do is betray you. But I was wrong. The worst is when they take everything from you and still act like you owe them something. It started small. My favorite lipstick went missing from my apartment. Then a scarf. Then a pair of earrings my mom gave me last Christmas. I thought maybe I misplaced them. I thought maybe I was losing it. Trauma does that, right? Until one day, I saw a tagged photo of Cynthia at some influencer brunch. She was smiling that perfect, plastic smile, surrounded by people I used to know. People who hadn't even bothered to ask me how I was doing after the wedding disaster. But that wasn't what caught my eye. She was wearing my earrings. I zoomed in. Same gold twist, same tiny sapphire. A custom piece. One of a kind. She broke into my place. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. I called the police. Filed a report. Changed the locks. But they said without hard evidence, there wasn't much they could do. It could have been a mistake, the officer said. Maybe she has the same pair. No, she doesn't. Then I checked the footage on the small camera I kept above the bookshelf. It wasn't much, just a basic home camera I'd bought on a whim. But there she was. Cynthia, letting herself in. With a key. Moving through my things like she owned them. Like she was home. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Watched her walk into my closet, pull down my sweater, smell it. Touch the framed photo of me and our dad. Her fingers lingered there. She looked around like she missed something. And before she left, she sat on my bed. For 15 minutes. Just sat there. I don't know if she was thinking, crying, plotting. But I know one thing for sure. This isn't just about John anymore. This isn't about jealousy or even revenge. This is about identity. And I think Cynthia isn't satisfied with just stealing my fiancé. She wants to become me. The me who got adopted into a loving family. The me who was favored without trying. The me who didn't have to compete because love was never a race to begin with. But love was always a war for Cynthia. And now she's trying to win it by erasing me. I've started sleeping with the lights on. My phone never leaves my side. I've put cameras in every room. Changed all my passwords. But I still feel her presence, like she's one step behind me. Like she's watching from the corners of my life, waiting for me to break. But here's the thing. I'm done being the victim. If Cynthia wants to play games, she picked the wrong woman. Because I've already lost everything. Now I've got nothing left to fear. Fear will paralyze you, but rage gives you clarity. I spent weeks hiding, watching, wondering how deep Cynthia's obsession really went. But now I needed answers and I needed proof. So I stopped playing defense. I set the bait. I posted a photo in a familiar place, an old cafe downtown where Cynthia and I used to go during college. I captioned it simply, "Needed some peace. Miss this place." But here's the thing. I wasn't there. It was an old photo. The timestamp blurred just enough. And then I waited. I sat in my car, across the street, engine off, camera ready. 42 minutes later, she showed up. Alone. No makeup. Hoodie. Sunglasses. Like she didn't want to be seen, but couldn't help herself. She walked into the cafe and scanned the room. Her eyes moved from face to face, fast, twitchy. She looked nervous, like a drug addict chasing her fix. I snapped the photos. Then I got out of the car. I walked across the street slowly. Calm. She hadn't seen me yet. I pushed open the door, and the second our eyes met, her face cracked. "Clara," she said, trying to smile. "You need help," I said, cutting her off. Her jaw twitched. "I don't know what you're talking about. Breaking into my place. Stealing my things. Wearing my clothes, my jewelry. Watching me. You don't even love John, do you?" She stared at me, stunned silent. And then she whispered, "You were never supposed to exist." The whole cafe felt colder. "I was the miracle baby," she continued. "The golden child. Then they brought you in. You cried less. You smiled more. They loved you better. I watched you take everything from me with your fake little kindness and your perfect little life." I couldn't speak. She wasn't just jealous. She was unwell. "You were just supposed to be the charity case," she hissed. "But you became the favorite. I had to take something back. I had to make you feel what I felt." I leaned in, calm but trembling. "You took John. And still, you're not happy." She laughed, bitter and broken. "Because he's not you. He never loved me. I tried everything. I even got pregnant." That last word stopped me cold. "Pregnant?" She looked down. "I lost it. 2 months in. Stress, maybe. Or maybe because this whole thing was never real." I took a step back. My hand instinctively moved to my purse, to the camera still rolling. Cynthia suddenly looked up, eyes wide. "You recorded this?" I didn't answer. But she knew. She lunged. I moved quicker. The cafe owner came out, shouting. People were filming. Cynthia screamed at them to stop. She screamed at me. Called me a thief. A demon. A shadow. She was escorted out by the police 20 minutes later. I handed over the footage. Restraining order was filed the next day. But here's the thing. Even after all that, even after her breakdown and confession, I didn't feel free. Because deep down, I knew Cynthia wouldn't give up that easily. And I was right. Because a few days later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just 5 words, handwritten in red ink. You still don't belong here. I didn't sleep the night that letter came. I just sat there, fingers trembling, rereading those 5 words until they burned into my mind. You still don't belong here. It wasn't just a threat, it was a truth Cynthia believed with her whole soul. But I needed more than words now. I needed answers. So I went back to the place where it all started. Our childhood home. The house had been sold after our parents passed, but the old neighbor, Mrs. Adele, still lived next door. She was the kind of woman who knew everyone's business, especially things they tried to keep buried. She looked shocked when she saw me at the door. Clara, she asked. Or Cynthia? I forced a smile. Clara. She invited me and without hesitation. Poured me tea like she had when we were kids. I didn't waste time. Did my parents ever mention anything strange? About me? About the adoption? She hesitated. I remember things didn't feel right back then, she said. You showed up suddenly. No papers. No announcement. Just there one day. What do you mean? I asked your mother about it once. She said you were a gift. But your father, he always looked nervous around you. Like he was hiding something. My heart thudded. Like what? She looked at me, eyes sad. Like he didn't choose you. like someone gave you to them. And they didn't have a choice. That night, I tore through our old storage unit. Boxes of photos, diaries, papers, and then I found it. A folder labeled in my father's handwriting. For Clara if she ever finds out. Inside were two things. 1, a letter. 2, a hospital band. The letter was dated 28 years ago. Clara, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. Your mother never wanted you to know. We were pressured to take you in. You were the result of something tragic. Someone we loved did something terrible. Your real mother was my wife's cousin. She was only 15. She couldn't keep you. We couldn't say no. Not after everything. But Cynthia always knew. She heard us arguing about it once. She wasn't supposed to. We tried to love you equally. God knows we tried. But something shifted in her. She never forgave us for keeping you. Or for loving you. I hope you're safe. I hope you find peace. You were never a mistake. You were a second chance. I broke down on the floor, sobbing. Not just from pain, but from understanding. Cynthia wasn't born bitter. She was raised in silence. Forced to share her parents, her toys, her life, with a girl she saw as the shadow of a family secret. And I was the walking reminder of everything she lost.